Happy Tuesday morning, everybody. Welcome into another day of Morning Jocks. Conrad Van Order, Damian Mitchell here with you until 7 o'clock. And we appreciate you making us a part of your morning each and every day right here on Jocks as we try to start your day off with the latest around the college football world, the latest around the sporting world in general. But of course, we have and it's great because we get to say this every week. And I know some people say, "Man, y'all say that every week. It can't be true." But I mean, typically it is, right? And we're getting ready for another great weekend of college football. And I mean, if you just look ahead to the slate of what we're going to have coming up this weekend, then you already know that it has the potential to be another fantastic weekend. And right, I mean, even last week you go and you're like, oh, okay, well, maybe it's not quite as intriguing of a slate. And Penn State falls to UCLA and Texas falls to Florida. And, it's almost like the weekends that have, I guess, fewer marquee matchups, right? That's when the really, really crazy stuff happens. And so this weekend, we're looking at another slate of fantastic games. And who knows, maybe this weekend it'll be the Auburn Tigers that we're talking about as one of those teams pulling off an upset of a highly ranked opponent and maybe changing some people's perspectives and expectations. But I don't want to get ahead of myself, Damian. We'll have plenty of time here over the next 3 days to fully break down that matchup between Auburn and Georgia, as well as Alabama's matchup with the Missouri Tigers. But we will get into the world of college football here momentarily and tell you the latest going on with both the Alabama and Auburn programs. But we have to start, Damian, as we typically do on Tuesdays, by recapping what we saw last night because there was live tackle football going on last night, and it was a fantastic game, honestly. If you watched Monday Night Football last night, you had Jacksonville hosting the Kansas City Chiefs. So Jacksonville was at 3-1, Kansas City at 2-2, and it really felt like the Chiefs kind of found their mojo last week against the Ravens, and they started to look again like, all right, this is the same old Kansas City Chiefs squad. And so they roll into Jacksonville with a team that Damian is a big fan of that franchise and how far they've come. Isn't that right, Damian?
No, it's not.
Okay.
It's not.
Okay. Well, you're going to be a fan of how the game turned out, I'm sure. But it really was. It was a fantastic game. It started off early. KC, they go up 14-0. You're like, all right, this isn't going to be very entertaining. But credit to the Jaguars, right? They were able to bounce back and make it interesting. And ultimately, they would tie it up there in the third quarter. But you had the big play that I think a lot of people will walk away from, especially since Jacksonville would end up being victorious in this matchup. But you had the 99-yard pick six from Devin Lloyd, which was, I mean, that was awesome to see. Just
Was it?
It was a great play by him, and just the convoy down the sideline, man. He made a couple guys miss, and 99 yards. That's a
Yeah, it's great. It's a long way. I'll tell you that.
It is. It is a far distance. It
Yeah.
is. I would say just about the furthest distance that you could score from on a football field. But no, that was an awesome moment for Devin Lloyd. He had the pick six of Patrick Mahomes at the 1 yard line, returns it for 99 yards to give the Jags a 21-14 lead. And you start to think, man, all right, maybe some of that Chiefs magic is gone.
Nope.
But no, it would not be because, of course, you would have in the fourth quarter, the Jags, a little bit later in the game, they'd be up 24-21. Chiefs would have the ball. They would go on a fantastic drive. I mean, 12 plays, 86 yards, took about 6.5 minutes off the clock. They go down. Kareem Hunt runs into touchdown. So, I mean, you're like, all right, that's what the Chiefs do, right? You give them the ball at the end of a game, they find a way to crush your hopes and dreams. So they go down the field with 1:45 seconds left. They go up 28-24. Then you get the penalty on the kickoff, which doesn't help because then Jacksonville gets set up at their own 40-yard line. Trevor Lawrence makes, I mean, probably two of the best throws you've ever seen, right, Damien?
I will give him credit for those throws. Absolutely. The one he
Especially
had
the
on
one to
sideline,
Brian Thomas. That was
you couldn't have placed it anywhere else.
That was a couple of dimes from Trevor Lawrence there at the end of it, but unfortunately, it was the Kansas City defense that would get the best of them because they would get a pass interference call in the end zone on 3rd and 13. Jacksonville's moving the ball. Kansas City, they get the stop. You're feeling really good about where you are. I mean, 4th and 13, no one's going to convert that, right?
Right.
But you get a pass interference call in the end zone, sets the Jaguars up at the 1 yard line. Trevor Lawrence then falls down and somehow still manages to pick himself up, run it in, and that was that. And the Jaguars get the 38 or 31-28
I
win.
could have broken my TV last night when that happened. I like the hate watch I have for the Jacksonville Jaguars it's starting to just ooze out of me because
You got excited when he fell down.
you damn right I did because
yeah.
I thought
I
the
know you
Kansas City
did.
Chiefs was literally just going to land on top of them. The clock was going to run out. I was so frustrated. But it goes to show you, one, I will give Jacksonville credit. Drafting Travis Hunter may have been one of the smartest moves that they ever made. Now, they got to figure out if they're going to make him play both ways because brother was tired chasing Hollywood Brown and Xavier Worthy and those guys up and down the field.
I mean, one of the catches he made last night was fantastic.
Nasty. Absolutely filthy.
Yeah.
He would be a top 10 receiver if he could focus just on the receiver side. But, again, I think Trevor Lawrence – I am not in the camp that he is a generational talent. I've never been in that field. I just never really thought that he was that dude. Never once. Now, he had a great run at Clemson, but again, you can argue that, he's had 35 different head coaches, 45 offense coordinators. Fair enough. But if you're paying him the money that you're paying him, you expect more success on the field. And last night was two throws out of the many that he threw were absolutely phenomenal. I mean, the last drive that they had, he was diming him. He was putting his money where his mouth was. Like it was evident. But I came away from that game thinking the first thing that popped in my head was Dennis Green. We let him off the hook. That's exactly what happened. They are who we thought they were. It's Jacksonville. They will not have any more success.
It was his birthday yesterday.
I do not care.
Let the man have some fun.
Don't care. Congratulations. He got out there with a W.
He's better than Patrick Mahomes. Isn't that how that works?
No, it's not.
Oh, okay.
It's
I
not.
thought the head-to-head thing, I thought that's how that worked.
Oh, my gosh. But, yes, congratulations to Trevor Lawrence and Jacksonville Jaguars. I just hate – I am a true AFC South just hater if you're not the Titans. I can't stand you. But the hate watch I have for Jacksonville because everybody talks about, oh, they're the team that's on the cusp. They're right there. They're so close. No, they're not. Last night was evident. They get lucky because stupid stuff like that. The quarterback trips, and then all of a sudden he's like he has grease on him or something, Vaseline on him because everybody just slides off of him when they try to tackle him. So like Karlaftis, man, come on! Like you have him in your grasp. Defensive lineman, have him in his grasp, and then he finds a way to get into the end zone.
So I would say that Lamar's the best dual threat quarterback in the league right now. Would you say that behind him is Jalen or Trevor Lawrence?
I'd say Jalen Hurts.
Okay. Did Jalen Hurts have 2 rushing touchdowns this week? I don't think that he did.
Nah, he had him a couple weeks ago. Jaden Daniels, I put ahead of.
I've never watched football before, so I've thought that's how these things work.
No,
that's how these direct comparisons work.
I can't stand Trevor Lawrence. I really can't. If you put him anywhere else, I'd probably won't hate watch him as much. But I would ask, is he the generational talent that everybody says he is? He's not in my eyes, but it's doubled when he's with the Jacksonville Jaguars. Now I like Travis Etienne. Think he's great. I like Travis Hunter. Think he's great. But other than that, I can't stand the Jaguars. I really hate them. I really do. Like I tried not to use hate, but last night I was just when the Chiefs were up 14-0, I was talking to my buddies. I was just like, hey man, just go ahead and cut the game off. It's over. Trevor Lawrence ain't gonna be able to do it. And then up until the last drive, I was still talking smack. I was like, he doesn't have it in him. He's no Matthew Stafford. And then he goes out there and drops that dime to Brian Thomas Jr. And I'm just sitting there,
great
seething.
Throw.
It was. I
almost as good as the recovery on the touchdown. And the reason I like the touchdown run at the end is it just shows a lot of grit and want to.
Oh, my God.
And those are qualities that I certainly would like to have in my quarterback. But, hey, shout out to Trevor Lawrence and the Jaguars as they get the 31-28 victory last night over the Kansas City Chiefs, and they are now tied for first in the AFC South with the Indianapolis Colts. Because that's
disgusting.
What we all had on our bingo card
disgusting.
For this season, right? So we'll see if Damian is going to continue to be disappointed this year with their continued success. But let's get back to the world of college football now. So that was your Monday Night Football action from last night. But We've got a lot of things going on the plains of Auburn. So, how about a big scheduling change for next football season that comes with some big NIL opportunities? We'll tell you what that looks like for the Auburn football team and why they're moving a home game to Atlanta in 2026. That's all coming up next here on JOX. Welcome back into the Tuesday morning edition of Morning Jocks. Conrad and Damien here with you until 7 o'clock, when we'll turn you over to McElroy and Kublick in the morning as they'll continue, I'm sure, to break down a little bit of what we saw in week 6 and, of course, turn our attention to week 7 as we have another fantastic slate of games coming up this weekend. But first, we have to get to a game that'll be played in 2026, as this news was announced yesterday, and that is Auburn is going to move their home game against Baylor, which would be the season opener for next year, similar to how they played this year in Waco. They were going to play that game next year on the Plains. Well, that game is now being moved from the Plains to Mercedes-Benz Stadium in Atlanta. And the reason for this is that they are going to provide, I guess, unique NIL opportunities to the Auburn players that are expected to total as high as $5 million, based on some of the reporting that I've seen. And so the belief is that so the Peach Bowl, who they've done that season opening game at Mercedes-Benz for some time now, and then the actual game itself, the kickoff game, is sponsored by Aflac. So the Peach Bowl and Aflac, they are working in conjunction with one another to provide opportunities for promotional, promoting the game itself, events surrounding the game, things like that, where some players are going to be able to put some extra money in their pocketbooks. So maybe not all that dissimilar, even though I believe the basketball tournament was tied to performance. But they have that NIL tournament now at the start of college basketball season where schools are able to go and compete for extra NIL for their players. And so again, this just seems to be the evolution of college athletics as we know it. So Auburn forfeiting a home game because they said, hey, if we can put a few extra $100,000, whatever it may be, in some players' pockets, then we're going to go out there and do what's best for the players in their opinion. So it'll be interesting to see how that one plays out. But do you have any feelings on that one way or another, Damien, in terms of, do you like the idea of, having kickoff games based around, a pot of money, basically?
Nah, it just kind of sucks because I did want to see the return trip for Baylor into Jordan Hare. But this is just the nature of the business of college athletics now, where cash rules everything around me. Dollar bill, y'all. I mean, it's if it don't make dollars, it don't make sense. So it's a money thing, and if you want to be able to sustain the success that you've had on the field, you got to bring the money in, and you got to take care of the players. So I get it. It just sucks that you're taking a home game away from those guys on the Plains, because I do think that assuming that it was going to be week 1 again
Yeah.
next year, it would have been cool to have Baylor coming to Jordan Hare, but you know it's glorified. It's a glorified home game because Atlanta from Auburn ain't that far away.
Well,
So
and that's kind of my thing, is it's not a home game in the traditional sense, but it's going to be a home game for Auburn. And so apparently the ticketing will be handled as such too, because they've already announced. So Auburn will receive, their standard about 21,000 tickets. Baylor's going to get 3,000 tickets for their fans. So it will be treated like a home game. I think we all agree that the Auburn contingent will be the predominant one there in the audience. But yeah, we will see. But I mean, look, if Auburn thinks, or I guess I'm assuming there have been conversations with players on that team within the athletic department of, hey, would y'all rather play a home game or would you rather have the NIL opportunities? And if that's the way that they want to go with it, then good on them for setting their players up with more opportunities to make money. Because as we know, that's what these kids want to hear nowadays, anyways. So that game's scheduled for September 5th of 2026. Again, Auburn Baylor going to be played in Atlanta. And quickly, just if you're looking ahead to what Auburn's going to have to deal with, I guess, on the road now. And technically, again, it's not a road game; it's a neutral site game. But you're going to play Baylor in Athens now, and then you're going to play Ole Miss, Mississippi State, Tennessee, Georgia, and Alabama, all away from Jordan Hare Stadium next year. So it's certainly going to be a gauntlet of a schedule, but I mean, it already is each and every year here in the SEC anyways. So that was the big news coming out of Auburn yesterday, as it has to deal with future scheduling. But how about Hugh Freeze talking about the future in terms of this upcoming weekend against Georgia? Let's turn our attention to Hugh Freeze because he had his press conference yesterday. Really the first, I guess, in-depth comments we've gotten to hear from him since the Texas A&M loss, since you were on bye last week. So let's start kind of with the bye week itself. This is Hugh Freeze yesterday talking about how his staff, how they've worked tirelessly during this bye week to try to fix the mistakes that have plagued Auburn in SEC play so far.
I just assure you that we've worked tirelessly in the open week to correct and give our kids the best chance to win. The accountability rests upon me and our staff, and obviously there's things that kids got to be accountable for too. But by and large, it was it's disappointing that we didn't give our kids a better chance to win that football game. But the great thing is it's behind us. And there's so much sitting in front of us. Starts with this week playing at home against Georgia, and really told our team yesterday how excited I am, and I know our staff is, and they'll be the same. So great test, and looking forward to it.
So there you go. That's what you would want to hear, right? As you've worked tirelessly throughout the bye week to get this thing back on the straight and narrow, and we'll wait and see on Saturday if that has worked out. So how about the quarterback? Because we all know Jackson Arnold has been, had some criticism thrown his way here early on in the season. He's thrown the ball too long. He seems afraid to make, some difficult throws, kind of thread the needle sometimes. So Hugh Freeze, this is him after he was asked yesterday if he thinks Jackson Arnold is maybe playing it too safe, not taking enough risks out there on the football field.
We've talked about that because he's done an incredible job of taking care of the football, and truthfully, when we watch the film together, I'd love him to be a little freer, particularly with the playmakers that we have. And there's times I think he probably would be if we could hold up just maybe another half a second or a second, and but yeah, he's you want him to take care of the football for sure, first and foremost, and him doing that as poorly as we played still kept us in a game and gave us a chance to win. So there's a lot of positives from that, but certainly don't want him to play out of any fear. And hopefully our meetings throughout last week and through the game planning for this week, maybe he'll be a little more freer to give our kids a chance.
You look like you feel a certain type of way about that. Those comments.
Because it sounds great. It does. But this has been an issue that he's been dealing with since camp.
Mm-hmm.
And, we've seen footage of how he loses it on him when he continues to hold the football. But at some point, you just got to – he has to have the conversation with Jackson. Let it rip, please. We will live and die with the results. I would show him – if I was Hugh Freeze, I would show him Peyton Thorne's bad throws. I would just say, you know what? He may have made the wrong decision, but you know what he's not doing? Hesitating. He's letting it fly.
Well, dare him to throw an interception.
Just do it.
Yeah, turn the ball over.
And the emphasis on the playmakers we have around you. Bang! You got to get into his head of saying, man, you're not at Oklahoma anymore. You're not playing with walk-ons. You're not playing with guys that you didn't expect to even sniff the field for you. I would look at Eric Singleton. I'd look at Cam Coleman and we are paying these brothers a lot of money. They need their touches by any means necessary. If you got to force feed it to them, do it. But Jackson Arnold also just has to let it rip. And I don't know where the disconnect is. Maybe he just doesn't trust his own abilities. But at some point, we're in week 6 now. At some point, we're going to get to the conversation of what your record says it is, because you can look at multiple times in multiple games of, hey man, I don't know what you think open is in college football now, especially in the SEC, but if these guys are one-on-one, I'd like my chances. The worst thing that could happen is an incompletion or a turnover, but if you put it where either they're going to catch the ball or it's going to go incomplete, the best case scenario. But at some point we have to take the training wheels off and say, you know what, Jackson, if you are afraid, or question him, are you afraid to make the mistake? Because one, in life you're going to make plenty of them. It happens. We can coach everything else on the sideline. Like, hey man, what you looking at? What you think about this thing? Just he has to have the confidence of, I need to let the ball rip and let the play happen, let the chips fall where they may.
And I think that's what a lot of Auburn fans would like to see, and he's certainly going to be under a lot of scrutiny this weekend. And he needs to show something right after the bye week that he can go and sit down and watch the film and learn. All right, this is where I still need to get better, and just honestly, a lot of it I think is mental, right? And how can you between your ears, how can you convince yourself? How can you make yourself believe that you can make those throws? Because I feel like that's half of it, right? Is maybe he just doesn't feel like he can make those throws, and so he doesn't want to try to force something. And maybe it's kind of time to try a little bit of a different method there. But we know that a big part of him being able to do his job, Damian, is also the offensive line being able to do his job. And when your orders are falling on deaf ears, we will. Yeah, we don't have to play the cut, but if you missed it, one of the more bizarre things that I've heard, I guess at least, but you have Xavier Chaplin, who we all know he came over from Virginia Tech. We thought he was potentially going to be a first round draft pick in April, but Hugh Freeze yesterday made the announcement that they had to test his hearing
Oh,
during
we
the
got
bye
it.
week.
We got it, brother. Listen.
Okay, let's listen to it. This is Hugh Freeze talking about his offensive linemen and maybe trying to fix some of his false start issues.
Done some testing on his hearing, and there's an issue there, and that goes back to us. Should have handled the cadence stuff differently for him, but he really struggles to hear in those environments, and we'll make adjustments for that. When he's on time off the ball and stuff, he's pretty dang good, and nobody hurts more than him. He was really distraught. I just again wish that we would have put him in a better position.
Look, I'm not. If he seriously has a hearing issue, I feel for him. I'm glad that they found that out and they're trying to do something to correct it. I've I just had never heard of that being a situation that you've had before. But look, if that's what they're dealing with, that's what they're dealing with. I'm sorry, but the first thing that it made me think of is in 2019, Jameis Winston threw 30 interceptions with the Buccaneers, and then he went and had LASIK eye surgery in the offseason. It's just one of those things where you're like, okay, first off, are you just doing this to say that you did it? And B, why didn't you do this a long time ago?
Yeah.
But that's the Auburn season so far in a nutshell.
Yeah, and there's a way he could have protected him. It was like, hey man, we worked on some things during the off season. I think some issues that we may have had before shouldn't be a problem moving forward. But also, if it took you 5 weeks to realize this, then there's a problem. There's a major problem.
I think that's kind of part of it too is, all right, so it's just now at this point that we've realized that. But hey, they're addressing it, and we'll see if hopefully that, fixes that problem, because that has certainly been an issue for one of the more promising players, or at least we thought for Auburn, who in Xavier Chaplin for them. So that's the latest going on with the Auburn Tigers, what's going on down there on the plains. But now let's take a step back and take a look kind of at the wider picture of the SEC, because there's been a lot of surprises so far this season. And so we want to share with you, me and Damian, we're going to give you our most surprising team and our most surprising player up to this point in the SEC season so far. We'd love to hear from you as well, 205-834-9450 on the courtesy GMC text line. So we deliver to you our biggest surprises of the year so far, next on JOX. We're rolling along here on your Tuesday morning. Conrad and Damian with you. As we appreciate you joining us each and every morning right here on your home for college football, JOX, as we get into some of the biggest surprises so far. So we just spent some time talking about the Auburn Tigers, what's going on with them coming off of the bye week. But now let's take a step back, look at the SEC as a whole so far this season. And so me and Damien, we've both picked a team as well as a player that for us has been the biggest surprise so far in a positive way, right? These aren't negative surprises because there's been quite a few of those as well. But we'll start on a positive note. And Damien, I want to start off with you and get your thoughts. So we'll start off with our most surprising team. So which team for you, when you look back, I know it's crazy to think about, but we are approaching the halfway mark of the 2025 college football season. So as it stands right now, October the 7th, who has been your biggest surprise as a team in the SEC this year?
I was
As we
trying to
try
set
to,
the mood.
yeah, we try to. Okay, so we've got an intro and everything for this.
Mine would be the Texas A&M Fighting Aggies.
Okay,
I think coming into the season, I had reasonable expectations for them. I didn't really have them in the college football playoff discussion coming into the season, but through the halfway point, and the way that they have gone about their business, it's hard not to deny that they're legit. Had question marks early on because it was almost like the filling out process. Are they going to be air raid? Are they going to actually lock in and run the football with the bevy of backs that they have? And their defense has really stepped up. And I think the question marks that I had after UTSA was able to gash them a good little bit, they've kind of put that to rest, especially since we've opened up SEC play and what they've been able to really kind of just, again, like I said yesterday, choke teams out where it's going to be a war. It's going to be physical. And what they did to Auburn, I mean, just absolutely dismantling them offensively. And they also put up a lot of points against Notre Dame. So no matter how you slice it up, they're able to find ways to win. Whether that means, hey, we got to get into a shootout. We've got the weapons. We've got the pieces. I think Casey Concepcion and Mario Cravers, what they have as far as receivers, could arguably be in the conversation of the best in the conference, if not one of the best in the nation. So I think just the collective that Texas A&M has really put together through 5-6 weeks, they really have caught me by a big-time surprise.
yeah, and I think something you hit on there, and we had talked about it, I guess, right after the Auburn game, actually. But it's the fact that you've seen Texas A&M beat what I would consider to be quality opponents, but in different ways, right? You've seen them have a back and forth shootout style game like Notre Dame you talked about. We've seen them, from a defensive standpoint, just absolutely strangle an Auburn team. And even on that day where offensively they weren't very good, they found a way to win that football game, right? And then we saw what they did against Mississippi State, where you had more of a blowout win over, again, what I think has been a pretty impressive Mississippi State team so far this year. So yeah, I've been really really impressed with Texas A&M. Again, I think it's and there's a lot of these things that we talk about in college football, right, where you have to rewire your brain a little bit. And I think we might be getting to that time where we have to stop just assuming, oh, Texas A&M is going to choke every year. They're going to go 8-4 every year, and who knows? Maybe they still ultimately will end up there. But I think this is the most confident I've been in a Texas A&M team in a very long time. Of okay, this looks like a team that could actually go out there and accomplish their goals this season of maybe playing in Atlanta, making a college football playoff, and maybe even competing for a national championship at the end of the year. So yeah, I've been super impressed by Texas A&M as well. I think that's a great choice there for the biggest surprise. But my biggest surprise, and I know that this would have, sounded a whole lot better a week ago probably, but I still think I know what Texas A&M just did to them, but I've still been so impressed by Mississippi State. And I think the reason that Mississippi State is the biggest surprise for me is I thought that they would be battling, seriously, I thought they'd be battling Kentucky for worst team in the conference. And to see them, I know it got lopsided after the first quarter this past weekend, but to see them go toe-to-toe with the Tennessee team that I think, you could make an argument has also been a very nice surprise. I think you have to look at what they did against an Arizona State team that's back in the top 25, but was a top 12 team when they beat them earlier in the season. and just how far they've come in just such a short period of time under Jeff Lebby. So when you look at them, their offense and defense overall this year, so they're 10th in scoring offense in the SEC. They're 11th in points per game or yards per game, excuse me. So they're ahead, offensively speaking, in both of those categories. They're ahead of LSU, Florida, and Auburn, which I know right now you look and go, well, those offenses aren't great. But coming into the year, you would have told you that Mississippi State was better than the LSU offense with Garrett Nussmeier and all those receivers. No one would have believed that. So I think, again, it just goes to show how far they've come, that in a year where a lot of teams have been disappointing, you've seen Mississippi State get better. And then on the defensive side of things, I mean, they're 12th in points per game, 12th in yards allowed, which is better than Texas A&M and Tennessee and Ole Miss in those categories, which is, you look at these teams at the top of the conference and you're like, man, Mississippi State's doing better in some areas than those teams are. And it just, again, it shows you how far they've come. They have the second leading rusher. I know Fluff Bothwell just got hurt, but he's the second leading rusher in the SEC. And again, you had that big win over Arizona State. So I think they would have to be Mississippi State, my surprising team so far. Now, how about players? We've each got a player, Damien. Who's your pick for most surprising player? I know who you're going with.
Absolutely, because nobody knew his name coming into the season. Hell, I'm an Ole Miss fan, didn't even know it. Trinidad Chambliss, dog. Everybody all season long, and I fall victim to this as well. You thought it was just going to be Austin Simmons, rinse and repeat. He's the next lane quarterback. He's going to figure it out. Well, he goes down to injury. In steps Trinidad Chambliss, and all he's done is throw for 1,033 yards, 5 touchdowns, 1 interception, also added 2 touchdowns with his legs. And when he looked at that LSU defense, a guy that transferred in from Division II Ferris State, and was not phased at all. And up until that point, we have been talking about LSU defensively had gotten better. They had shown it. And all he's done is just step up and not skip a beat. I think that for Lane Kiffin, he probably has to have a conversation with Austin Simmons and say, hey, this was not what we all expected. It wasn't.
No.
But got to go with the hot hand, and that has been Trinidad Chambliss. And really and truly, when you look at how that offense has looked, I know it was a small sample size, but when he goes into the game, it looks a little bit different. Not to say that Austin Simmons wasn't putting up numbers, but not to this level. Because then you got to go back and look at the Kentucky game and how different that could have been.
Oh, yeah.
Had Trinidad Chambliss been the starter. So it's Trinidad Chambliss for me, quarterback for Ole Miss Rebels.
Yeah, and I'll be honest, I knew you were going to pick him, and because it's a great pick, and I think it's probably the right. There's no right or wrong answers here, but I think that's probably the most right selection that you could have had. But I figured you'd go that route because you're an Ole Miss guy now. So I decided to go a different route, but it is Trinidad Chambliss. But I went with Joey Aguilar.
Let's go.
And the reason that I went with him is again, just the situation. That whole situation is so bizarre, and I know UCLA's riding high right now because of what they just did to Penn State. But to have essentially what became, the leftovers for UCLA of, well, we did bring you in because we wanted you to be the guy, but now we can go get Nico, so we don't want you anymore, Joey. And then Tennessee essentially trying to bring over a handful of quarterbacks in the portal, and none of those guys work out. And so it just feels like nobody wanted Joey Aguilar, right? UCLA didn't want him. Tennessee felt like they had to settle for somebody. And here he is, the second leading passer in the SEC at this point in the season. So I think he's been remarkable. He does have a bit of a turnover issue, but you look at what he's done in the 2 SEC games, the close win over Mississippi State and then the close loss to Georgia. He's had over 700 yards of total offense, 8 total touchdowns. He's been at his best when they have needed him to answer the call. So I've been really impressed with him and what we thought might have been a forgotten season for Tennessee. He now has them in the playoff conversation, which I certainly didn't think they would be there after the whole Nico situation and just everything that happened this offseason. So I think you have to give him a lot of credit for not only his performance on the field, but also just the situation he had to come into, how quickly he had to get acclimated and get ready for the season. I've been really, really impressed by him. So,
yeah, he was my second choice.
Yeah, well, of course, you still got that hypo discipleness.
Absolutely.
Deep in your heart. So those are our surprises for the season so far. Our most surprising team and player from both Damien and myself. But we'd love to hear from y'all. 205-834-9450 on the courtesy GMC text line. And that's where we will go next. We'll turn it over to you. get back a little bit to the Auburn conversation as well, because a lot of you chiming in with your thoughts on what we heard from Hugh Freeze yesterday and just what your expectations are now moving forward for the Tigers. We let you join in the conversation next on Morning Jocks. .647 here on your Tuesday morning. Welcome back into Morning Jocks. Conrad and Damien here with you for a few more minutes before we hand you off to McElroy and Kublik in the morning. About to take your calls and text on the college football conversations of the day. But first, we want to give you an opportunity to have a little getaway as Alabama is going to head to Columbia, South Carolina in a few weeks to take on the Gamecocks. And you and a lucky friend, partner, could also be in attendance. So us here at JOX and our friends at Total Sports Travel are giving you the chance to go see Alabama take on South Carolina. One lucky winner is going to score a trip for two, including round-trip airfare, a two-night stay at the Ryder Hotel in Charleston, 2 tickets to Saturday's game, and transportation to and from the stadium. All you have to do to enter to win this package is text the keyword TIDE, T-I-D-E, to 205-834-9450. Again, text the keyword TIDE, like Crimson Tide, T-I-D-E, to 205-834-9450. So don't miss your shot at the ultimate game day experience courtesy of Total Sports Travel and your home for college football right here on JOX. All right, let's go to the phone lines quickly here. Let's go to Todd in Jemison. Wants to talk about Auburn this morning. How we doing, Todd?
I'm doing great, man. Look here. I called in a couple weeks ago and asked something about putting Deuce in there at quarterback. Y'all said, no. You don't throw him in there in that defense. Well, forgive me if I'm wrong, but was Bryce Young a freshman when he started quarterback at Alabama? And I know there's been other quarterbacks that started as a freshman.
Well, he was a
I guess
redshirt freshman. Like, he had sat for a year before he started.
Kind of like Deuce is doing now.
Well, yes, this would be his, yes, essentially, yes. So if Deuce started next year, that would be like the Bryce Young track.
What about that other quarterback they brought in? Here's what I'm saying. We sat here just like this all last year. Every week when they dropped back biting our nails because we was going to throw an interception. This year, the only difference is when he drops back, we're sitting here biting our nails because we know he's not going to throw nothing. So I'm ready to do something. Hell, if it's wrong, it doesn't matter to me. Do it.
Yeah, Todd, I think a lot of people are appreciate the call this morning. I think a lot of people are right there right now with the quarterback situation of look, I understand you probably don't want to throw a true freshman in there against Georgia for his first game. I get that. But I mean, again, if nothing changes, right? If you've had a bye week and it is out there in the first half and it is evident that nothing has changed in the offense, I think at some point you have to put Ashton Daniels in or Deuce Knight if you think he's ready, but I would probably go Ashton Daniels first. But you have to just to try to spark something, right? I mean, it feels like you would have to make a change if you're coming off of a bye week and it looks the exact same.
Yeah, if it's something different if we're discussing, Ball State on Saturday. But the rest of the way, you either live and die with whatever Jackson Arnold's going to do, or you may sprinkle in some packages where another quarterback may come in, almost like a red zone Robbie package for Deuce. But I wouldn't want to put a true freshman out there to really complete offense unless he is just 1,000% ready.
Yeah, I don't think I'd be certainly not Georgia week.
Nah.
Certainly
maybe, Kentucky, possibly.
Yeah, maybe so. Let's go to Don. Let's see if he wants to see a new quarterback this Saturday. How we doing, Don?
Hey, guys. How are you guys? Happy Taco Tuesday and good old social taco day. But, yes, the guy had a good point, the guy just last caller. But if we don't see anything going on in the first half, you're not going to put Deuce Knight in. I agree with you guys. If you put anybody in, it would be Ashton Daniels, in my opinion.
Yeah, he's the guy with the experience, right? You'd rather. I don't think you want to throw Deuce McKnight to the Wolves if you don't have to.
You almost said Deuce McAllister.
I did.
But
Ole Miss.
But no, anyway, the reason I called is about moving the Baylor game over to Atlanta. And I love going to games in Atlanta and everything. And guys, I think you'll see a lot more of this with the NIL now. And like you guys said, they're already doing it with basketball in Vegas, and both Alabama and Auburn are playing in that this year.
Yeah, they are. So you going to head to Atlanta to watch the game next year, Don?
I will go. Anytime we play in Atlanta, I do go, and it's a great event and everything. And I mean, Hugh Freeze talked about it yesterday and last night on Tiger Talk. It is good for the players and guys, and like y'all said, that's what the world's coming to. And I think you're going to see a lot of teams doing this.
I was about to say it's an easy way to. I mean, it's kind of a recruiting pitch, right? Of hey, we can pay you X number of dollars, but you can also come and participate in these types of games and make a little extra on the side there. So yeah, I think we're going to see more of it as well, Don. And appreciate you chiming in this morning, Don. We'll see you up there at Social Taco later, okay?
All right, buddy. Hey, thank you, buddy.
Yep, thank you, Don. All right, let's finish up on the courtesy GMC text line as we have a bunch of texts that have rolled in this morning. Like this text that rolls in from one of Damien's Maplesvillians. Is that what y'all call each other down there in Maplesville?
Yeah.
Maplesvillians. He chimes in this morning. He says, I like Lane. Kind of wish Bama would have hired him, but it is what it is.
Hey. Which I got Kalen DeBoer, though.
Even after the back-to-back wins, you're still wishing for Lane? Yeah.
Greatness, man.
Fair enough. Let's see. This text rolls in. It says, Hugh Freeze has said countless times that Deuce is the best natural thrower in the quarterback room.
So was Joe Milton for Tennessee. He was the farthest thrower in the room.
Dude, the Cowboys just traded for him this offseason. He's a real up-and-comer.
Yeah. It's also where the ball goes after you throw it, too.
No, it's just about how far it can go. This one comes in from Crimson Convict. He says, if it's a blowout on the Plains, I mean, Auburn doesn't even show up this weekend. Would the administration seriously start considering a move? Start lining up back channels to see who is interested. I think they're going to give him, I mean, I guess it would depend on how bad it looks, right? But I think, again, the next two games are going to be very, very important because you need to avoid starting 0-4 in SEC play because that's what's happened the last 2 years, and that's where it's going to be hard to sell of, okay, we started off 3-0, but now we're 3-4, and we're 0-4 in the SEC for the third straight year. I think that's maybe when things start to really get real, and maybe the situation gets a little more dire, but we'll have to see. Whoa. Somebody just texted in. They said Tua was obviously mid. Look at what wide receivers he had at Bama.
Wow.
Look, all right, I'm not going to – yes, he had great wide receivers at Alabama. You're telling me that dude – and you can say what you want about him now. In college?
He was lighting them up.
Get out of here with that garbage.
So what does that mean for Jackson Arnold? Tua was mid. What is Jackson Arnold?
Let's see. This text rolls in and says, the big problem is Auburn needs to run the ball and take pressure off the line of scrimmage and quarterback. Yes.
It helps.
Someone needs to tell Hugh Freeze that. Oh, wait. He said it himself, and then he didn't do anything about it. Let's see. Antoine says, maybe Hugh shouldn't have had his defense take it easy on Jackson Arnold during the spring and summer. Hugh kills me. Glad he's the Auburn coach. Yeah. There it is. So appreciate all of you chiming in this morning. We'll see what happens this week as Auburn gears up to play the Georgia Bulldogs. Hopefully it's a new look offense out there on Saturday. We're back tomorrow at 6. McElroy and Kublik in the morning.